delayed, right?
I have a question.
Just a minute, Judy.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to make sure I got the lay of the land. That's
Okay,
all.
go ahead.
Commissioner Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, JB, the consent decree had the conversion for these two units already in it. But what is being impacted is the savings projections that you had presented that would be realized from the commissioning of the new Ukudu plant, right? So, at one point in time, you had a presentation that showed the waterfall of cost savings and the impact associated with closing 8 and 9, as well as some other changes that you were planning in it. So for the regular session meeting, what I would like to see is a revision of those projected cost savings associated with the new Ukudu power plant with the added cost of this $14 million. Although it was part of the consent decree, though, the savings forecast, right, the retirement of that 8 and 9 was projected in there, correct?
That's correct. And when we do the waterfall, it's in my opinion that it still be projected in there.
The retirement of it?
Yeah, because in other words, the savings from the PD will really be operating cost savings, no? You not to spend $10 million a year to operate the plant, only to run it for 15% or 12 or 15% of its capability. No? So it still be retired. It just means that over this period of time, and again, I looked at it based on, and the red line is complying with the regulation of 2023. To comply with that regulation and the delay, the delay, right? Even if I went to ultra low sulfur diesel, when I add all the numbers, it's like $48 million more expensive to just not convert the plant and save on the capital, but we would have paid the price in fuel costs. That's why I came back to you, coming back to say the best is used to convert, and then that leaves the retirement of the plant in our hands and not a specific requirement, a deadline as to by. So what we're going to do now, and the next process is this year, we'll be coming to you, hopefully by this, no later than this summer, with the updated integrated resource plan. And in that resource plan, you'll say, our goal is to get to 50% renewables, right? So we're going to set that in, and then we're going to also set the research requirement, and then recommend which plans to retire after the new power plant comes on the line. Mm-hmm. And that's the combination of that's the waterfall, which plan, because we do have to reduce our operating costs to make room for the new power plant. Mm-hmm. And again, and then the fuel savings, you will see in this presentation tonight, is still there. The fuel savings now will be used to, again, offset all the other things and still result in a savings to the ratepayer at that point in time. So it doesn't change the savings scenario down the road as long as we continue down the same path. It just means, it's 1 year later and the retirements have to occur 1 year later.
So the
14 million.
14 million in capital, but a savings in fuel costs.
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah, but those aren't going to offset each other, right? You're not going to save 14 million in fuel over low sulfur as opposed to ultra low sulfur, right? Within that time frame for that 1 year of operating, will you save?
No, it's between now and that period of time, and then the kicker is for that last year or 18 months, you're burning this higher cost fuel, so that eats up all your savings from the capital investment, just for that 1 year. So what we're able to do with this plan is to just invest in the capital investment, and therefore the only one that we have to will cost more will be the Cabras power plant to keep it running, but now under The sulfur content of the fuel that we are allowed today is 1.12%. We have to have that mix and brought down to 0.2%. 0.2% allows us to run cabbers at the 110 megawatts without reducing capacity. So we had a choice, but we don't have reserve, which is basically no choice, no? Because we would have been out of power. No?
Meccas are really our reserve.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna spend 14 million to keep it our reserve, right?
That's correct.
And then just to remind me again, the consent decree that was originally, the date for the conversion was still April 2023 in the consent decree, or is this a new
No.
date?
The date for the conversion for PD is December 21st, 2021, the end of this year.
Okay.
With the new timeline we put in, we delayed that to August 31st, 2022.
But we're
So-
still gonna have to put in the 14 million.
But you're still going to have to fin. So you actually also save like that's what, 8 months? Like 8 months of fuel under Ultra versus RFO
Okay.
for that scenario. Then on the tail end, when you have to go to that higher 0.2, you would have spend more for versus the ultra low sulfur diesel that you're doing today. So that combination, right, more than offset the 14 million. That's why I had, and so the thing is, at that point, we control what we do with 8 and 9, which one you retire, and combination, and hopefully we still have that opportunity then. I mean, we had that opportunity then, because we are going to put in more renewables, and I'll show you the alternative that will work out for this amendment on the ECA. Provides us actually good capacity to work better even with renewables.
Okay. Commissioner Guthrie.
Thank you. So in terms of the delay, exactly how long is the delay?
Right now, and again, that's a solution. The delay, you're looking at November, the amendment is saying that the new completion date is April 2024 with best effort to complete it by November 2023. Part of that is because they came, like the best case to complete this plan is April 2024, and the worst case is October 2024.
And what was the original
so-
date?
October 2022. So you're looking at about close to an 18-month
Okay.
delay, no?
Well, here's an idea. There are some changes occurring in Washington right now. There's going to be a new secretary for the Environmental Protection Agency. And I would suggest that we make a very strong appeal to the new EPA secretary, explaining the situation and asking for consideration to accommodate the projected new date. So we don't have to spend this $14 million. Before we do this, before we say we're going to have to do this, let's try and appeal it to the new secretary of the Environmental Protection Agency. Let them know what that money was perhaps going to be used for, to help our ratepayers and to help our utility, and emphasize that 3 years, and we're going to retire the generation capacity anyway. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So I would make a very strong argument through this appeal. And we might get lucky.
I think,
We might get lucky.
I think we kind of need to make a decision because the time is not done. And again, well, if it becomes longer and longer again, I have to talk to EPA next week, and so some decision has to be made because as much as I don't want to spend the money, I think the bigger picture is we kind of need to get the consent decree reset to the new schedule that we've put together, which is achievable and will really get everybody on the same page and moving forward. And so, I mean,
But
That's-
EPA,
that's a-
but US EPA has set their date, right, about having cleaner emissions, and wondering, like Commissioner Guthrie just suggested, you know, Chairman, you just write a letter to the new leadership and say, hey, we've been working with your team, this is where we're at.
We should at least
This is
try.
this is my boss's concerns, or this, as chairman, this is the body's concern, that we're gonna spend $14 million that we're just gonna throw away is not really the right. Well, in effect, we're gonna, it's sort of, it's meeting US EPA's deadline that is being set by pressure created on them internally or externally. For whatever reason, they came up with that date, right? 2023, do or die, right? We're saying, well, we either spend $50 million on fuel, which would be a complete waste, $14 million on a conversion to a plant we're going to close them, you know, within 6 months, 18 months after we open the new generator that we know will burn the right fuel. We're doing all the right things for the right reasons. That date is your date, US EPA. How does that affect the world and global warming if there's an 18-month delay in their date, right? And then maybe, if nothing else, we just appeal. You know, you have rightfully brought a decision to your governing board. Members of the governing board are expressing some concern about throwing money away unnecessarily, and would US EPA, and the nice thing is, you know, we haven't been in there negotiating, and rightfully so, you and your team have been negotiating, but you brought it back to your decision makers. And you appeal to the team you're working with to take it upstairs to their new decision maker. Maybe with a letter from the CCU, or you and the CCU, would that be a strategy that you think would be?
I don't think, my thoughts is, I don't think that would be the strategy. If the strategy is going to happen, I think it's going to come from the going to the top and making it come down from there, no? Because again, I'd like to say, I mean, we've been working well with the parties, no, in the negotiation. But as we all know, they also have their bosses, no? And whenever there's a consent decree change or proposed to be changed, and that's why it's going to take several months to change this, you know, they have to convince their bosses up the line, because then we agree and then we stipulate and then we go to the court, no? And we have the court, and you know, we've had people like Mileni, if you recall, and there's been there. He's no longer there, but so I don't know, the strategy in my mind to just write them a letter, I mean, we can do that, but maybe it's got to be other avenues, maybe from the, like,
What is the reason
secretary
for the
or
delay?
whatever
The reason
to-
for the delay was the coronavirus, correct? Is that the reason?
it's a combination of.
Okay. Well, that's why I think we have a
coordinating different
basis
things.
to appeal.
Yeah.
That, I mean, we can't be the only place in the United States that's having a problem like this, that's throwing off our schedule or because of circumstances
That's why
beyond
US
our
EPA got
control.
sued by those guys.
Even appeal to the president, we have to appeal to the president.
Okay.
Anyway.
I just have 2 points, John. First off, I think part of these moving things that are moving around is this lawsuit that was the Sierra Club or whatever. And that's the one that got EPA, because I think EPA was fine with us not doing anything for that period of time until they got sued. Once they got sued, they said we have to respond, and that's why they came up with this response. That's one. But the second thing is, I like Commissioner Limchaco. I share that concern of you had a waterfall of, you know, where the money was going and how the money would play out, and then you're making changes to it. And some of the changes are going to save you some money. One of the things, for example, the negotiations you're in with KEPCO to move certain assets, that'll save you some money in the long run. So I think it would be good is if you could, by Tuesday, do that waterfall again, say, this is what we were looking at, there have been these changes. The suit against EPA is forcing us to do this, but we're also working with KEPCO to do this, and this is where we're going to save money. And the other point that I'd like to make is, part of this conversion is going to require you to clean pipes and tanks, right? You're going to have to clean a tank.
At the power plant, yeah.
Yeah, down there. But what I'm saying is, you are going to have to clean some tanks eventually. So, maybe the whole 14 million is not, and the other money that are involved is not just for this project, but you were going to do it anyway. So maybe you're saving some money there. That's all. I'm just saying, look at it, and I think it would be very helpful if you could kind of give us that waterfall by Tuesday.
Yep, no problem.
Okay? And so that we can see, because we're focusing on $14 million, but how does that play with all the other things, the moving targets that you have? Those are my two or 3 points. Okay?
And just the final, John, as you correctly pointed out, Commissioner Guthrie points out, okay, so there's a new leadership at EPA, and you're right. Team you're working with at US EPA now has to run any new change past the new leadership. But it would be a new leadership, although that new leadership would tend to be more in favor of having cleaner air sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But maybe between now and next Tuesday, just reach out to that negotiating team saying you're having resistance from your bosses in the same way that they got to brief their new bosses. Hey, this is where we're at. This is how we're dealing with blah blah blah. And here's how we're dealing with Guam. But if nothing else between now and Tuesday, because that's when we have to make a decision. I'm having some resistance because it's going to cost us $14 million that we're going to, that we want to use for other things for our ratepayers, that we're going to just throw it away. And look how long we've been burning this other fuel. I mean, is 18 months? I don't think 18 months of Guam burning that fuel is going to accelerate global warming. And yet there's a real cost to the people. And at some point, all these regulations, local and federal, affect people. And we're just saying the effect on our people is we're concerned that because of delays beyond our control, we're going to have to sacrifice $14 million. And that's the key phrase, though. So we're clear with our ratepayers. We're using insurance money that we would have not otherwise received. So none of this is coming out of the ratepayer money. We were just hoping to save $14 million in our migration to the new generator. We were just helping to save $14 million of that insurance proceeds for other needs. Now we're having to put it in a plant that we're going to shut down, and my board's having resistance to that. And we're just talking about an 18-month differential. That's $1 million. It's $1 million a month to us. Maybe it's not a lot to them, but it's a lot of money to us and our ratepayers. Can you reconsider, run it upstairs to your new leadership, and you and the chairman talk to them if necessary? I mean, I don't know, but I will say this: in my experience with the GWA consent decrees, we were able to do some of that, and I'm not. And I know you're working hard on it, but maybe it's.
We've been working with it.
Yeah, I know you have, and you got it very far.
We have various options. One is, don't spend the 14 million, but you're going to have to burn.
No, none of us want to burn the fuel, but none of us want to. We want to stay where we are for 18 months and not have to spend 14 million. That's where we want it. That's what we want if they can.
Yeah.
Give us
I'll
more
bring the waterfall. I think maybe you might want to take thing as to some. I mean, I can always do that. I just know that I'm not going to be. I don't, what do you call it? I know that, I mean, I can do what the commission wants, no? And let you know what the results is, right?
Sure.
But, I mean, you can also maybe look at other strategies between now and Tuesday, and maybe that we can work out.
And we can always ask the governor for, just joining us in the request. We can ask the congressman join us in that request, that, hey, this is real, to a little community, 14 million is a lot of money.
All I know is that all I know is that we're involved with a federal court order that we agreed to.
Well, it hasn't gone to the court yet, right?
No, these are all as a result of the consent decree.
So can
So-
we, well, then let's do what we did at GWA. Let's go back to the court and ask them for, which she did. She gave, when Mulaney wanted us to finish GWA in 2014, she agreed with us and said 2021. And she's homegrown. And she's very sensitive and aware that 14 million means a lot of money to the people of Guam, the ratepayers of Guam, even if it appears to be nothing to a US EPA regulator. They have new leadership. Is it, I mean, to me, it's worth a try.
lose anything.
It's worth a try for 14 million bucks.
Okay, point taken. Commissioner Jocko.
JB, does the conversion of 8 and 9, is this a requirement of the next resolution for the adjustments on the ECA, or is it completely
No,
separate?
It's different.
Completely
These
separate?
are two different decisions.
So neither resolution is dependent on the other?
No, this is not one or another. They all have their own stipulated orders. This is one of 7. The conversion is 1 of 7. The power plant is 2 of 7. No?
So the max emissions amongst all the plants that produce does not rely on us converting 8 and 9 in order to get the minor source approval. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I will show that.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving along. John?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next resolution is 2021-02 on page 56. And again, I do have a presentation on this one. Again, what I have for you is just the title. It's proposed amendment of the Ukudu Power Plant Energy Conversion Agreement that was signed on November 2020. No? Here are the consent decree projects. Again, one is the 198 megawatt. That has its own set of penalties and stuff. Then the new Cabras Complex Autorosa Diesel pipeline. This actually serves the PD conversion right here to be able. Once you convert to ultra low sulfur diesel, this pipeline has to be there to service it with the fuel. No. Then Cabras 1 and 2, changes in operation and the decommissioning. The Cabras 1 and 2 is directly related to when the power plant is completed. So that's correlate the two. Storage tanks 1934 and 1935 refurbishment. We have 2 tanks. We're completely checking, making sure it's sound, and then after it's completed, the first one's going to be completed in May of this year. We're gonna put in the second tank next to it. There's low sulfur fuel oil, so we're gonna have to put that fuel in there for the time being. So we have the supply. Take the second tank out, clean it up. That will take about a year, and then put ultra low sulfur diesel in there so that we can serve PD power plant. So that's part of the delay, because again, if you recall, we started the tank work, then it stopped. So we went ahead and fueled the tank and used it for a short period. Then we started again, and it's continuing. So the completion of that tank now is May of 2021, in a few months. Again, but even when it completes in the next few months, we can't do anything except clean the other tank. And that's why the conversion of PD is the following year, when the tanks are finished, within 3 months or 4 months afterwards. If we did all the conversion work, we will be successfully burning ultra low sulfur diesel. No? So again, then the last one is 100 megawatt of solar that we have already contracted for, but it also has been delayed, no, from the COVID, and I have some new dates on that also. So then, I'm sorry, that's the 6th one. The 7th one is the 40 megawatt energy storage that has been going through its issues of quarantines and all of that every time we're trying to commission. I'm happy to say that it is in the tuning process and it's actually been on the line. And I will show you some initial results of that in my GM report. So that also was supposed to be done, but again, delay, and we're almost done with that one. Next. So again, what is KEPCO required to provide to us? 198 megawatts. Again, by October 2022, three 45 megawatt gas turbines with steam turbine, 63 megawatt. This is the combined cycle portion of the machines that is going to give us an efficiency of 51%, and that's the one's going to save us all the fuel costs. No, these are the availability factors that are there. In addition, they were going to provide us 65 megawatts of standby generators to be used whenever the main power plant was down for short periods of time. No, but that is limited to about 500 hours of operations per year. It is not something that we could just call up to dispatch. It's just really meant to cover some reserve of the power plant, in addition to them providing a 25 megawatt battery to have, to avoid this tripping of the system when they lose the big generator. So all of this are all part of that to make that plant very reliable. Next. Why is an amendment necessary? Air permitting challenges. KEPCO was looking at all the economics of all of these different things, and again, as they look at the permitting process, although it's not mentioned in the bid, it was always our intention to go on a minor source. They ended up looking at all the numbers, and if you recall, I was doing some negotiations around May of earlier this year, trying to get them to move those diesel generators out of there so that we can work on a minor source permit, which will bring us, on a more definitive time, right?
Good, John.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. JB, did I hear you correctly that the permitting requirement of being major or minor source was not part of the solicitation?
What? I'm sorry.
The requirement for either a major source permitting or minor source permitting was not part of the solicitation document?
No, because it was, they presumed that because of the timeline that we have given, that it would have been a minor source.
The assumption was that it would have been a minor source because of the
timeline to construct. Because, and again, that was in the bid, be finished by so-and-so date, which is October 2022.
So it's fair to say that if they pursued a major source permitting, that they could not meet that?
There's no way
it was
they
not
could
feasible to meet that
because,
timeline?
The difference between a minor is that a minor you can permit the plan within, say, 4 or 5 months, right? If you limit your emission, if your total emission is less than a certain, like for example, I think it's 100 tons per year, and if anything beyond that, to run it for the amount of time you need it, right, full running or whatever, a major source, you need at least 1 year of monitoring. In other words, you got to put monitors all throughout the island and take 1 year of data, make sure it's all certified, all of these things, and then you start the other permitting process. So you have a minimum of at least, a minimum of 1 year additional time to permit the power plant, Aside from, that's just the air permit, aside from the environmental impact assessment and all the other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So nothing in the technical proposal that was submitted would have determined that what they're proposing would have the total emissions that would require a major source?
Nothing say you go to minor, and nothing. I don't think anything said that until they started putting all the numbers together as to what is the pollutant, total pollution. That's when this issue started coming up as to, you can't permit all of this capacity. You could permit it, but you're going to have to go through the longer permitting process. So that's what happened here. And again, so we've been trying to work with them to try and come up with this solution even as early as May. And we tried to relocate the diesels to even Marble. But when you do all those relocation, of course, the budget cost goes up, And we're not, responsible for any additional costs as a result of that, right? So they proceeded on the major source path. But it also became evident that, yeah, we are correct. It's going to take you so long, no? So again, in August, I made a second attempt to try and come up with a solution. And again, this time, the marble alternative is really not the best alternative. It would be to relocate the diesels that they have there to Cabras power plant next to the storage tanks. So therefore, you get your oil right from the tank there. Your transmission line is right there, and all of these different things. So I wrote out a proposal to them in August, and in the meantime, as a result of all of this, no, and that's the real killer about a major source, ne? If it takes so long, you don't have a definitive time as to when you're gonna have your air permit. Therefore, you have contractors on the loop, so your costs are gonna keep rising. If you don't order the machine, it rises the cost, no? So then the realization of all of that, and again, I have to give credit to them. They keep trying to make it economically feasible, and they even didn't contract their EPC at the time, although he had been here working to try and gain a lot of knowledge of Guam. They had to go out for a different engineering procurement contractor, no, EPC, which they did contract in December. So the first EPC was Hyundai. The new EPC now is Doosan, the new contractor. And as part of the proposal, in good faith effort to make this thing work, they worked to contract with Doosan to show that yes, they are going to move forward with this project based on everything else, because unfortunately, again, the leverage, I may say I have a lot of leverage, but I get limited in that if they did not go forward with the contract, the termination would have been $3 million, no? The bid bond. They would have had to get to the financial closing. That's when they give us the $68 million as a performance bond. But we didn't get there yet, no? So therefore, cancel a $3 million contract, have EPA all over us, because again, we still have to comply with the consent decree. And then, if you look at the timeline, it will take us probably 2 years again to get a new contractor on board. And I'm sure, based on the experiences of that number would have gone up with a lot to minimize all the risks, because now they're quite familiar with the complexities and the challenges, no, of putting a new power plant on, right? So, again, the major source permitting would result in delays. Minor source permit results in shorter commissioning, but seem not economically feasible in the beginning to meet the contract performance guarantees. They could reduce and go minor source, but they're not going to give us the 80% or 7, of operations that we contract for, no? And that they will be subject to penalties then, no? The detrimental impact on GPA, the consent decree. If the contract is terminated and they walk away because it's no longer feasible, the negotiated alternative solution to me was the best alternative, no? And so, again, termination was not in our best interest because it's limited to $3 million. And again, we will have all these stipulated penalties and other uncertainties and costs. So we're kind of back to the drawing board again, no? So we work out to agree on a win-win solution, which we did, and I'm presenting here now in the form of an amendment, no? COVID, that's one part of it. COVID related. availability of, again, relevant agencies during the pandemic, closures of, agencies, quarantine requirements, people can come in to do business, to do work, work inefficiencies resulting operating mode, even if you are working, it's not the normal work process, it's an impact. Environmental and construction permitting changes, again, it's the first power plant in 23 years. Resource of permitting agencies are taxed. They're really taxed because there's a substantial also work on, and especially concern on historical preservation and environmental permitting due to, of course, the military buildup and the local concern. So when they look for permitting, they're now looking at it with a very magnified glass versus, versus what it could have been before. So all of this, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but these are the challenges that everybody has had to be going through, no? Next. So the proposed amendment is subject again to your, I made this agreement subject to your CCU approval, PUC approval. And again, the testing of US EPA to be willing to negotiate a change in the consent decree based on all of these different factors, no? Because we are making our best effort to get this thing done, no? So, KEPCO, again, they will permit the plan on the minor source. They committed to do that. The new COD date is no later than April 2024, with best effort November 2023. What I meant by that is that that's the schedule that November is their target, their work, and all the things are targeted for. But there is potential to really take it as far as April 2024. Because that April 2024 is their best case. Their worst case, like I said, was October. So I drew a hard line as no longer than April 2024 because when I go to US EPA, also as being a part of this, I'm negotiating for an April 2024, but I'm pushing them for a November target.
Okay, John? Commissioner Mchako, you have a
So
question?
JB, when is the deadline for the financial close?
The financial close,
Gi-
I think
given-
that will be, I don't have that exact date. I have to get it for you, Commissioner. But now it will be sometime, most likely this year. Because part of the my drive in my negotiation was for them also to put teeth in the game, or skin in the game, right? I'm sorry, not teeth. Excuse me, I tried to be skin. It's about the same, right? But so I pushed for 40 million upfront, no, so that they show us they're committed, right? But that's not. They're also a public entity, KEPCO, no. So they have major difficulties accomplishing that. However, we did have them have 20% equity in they had to have 20% equity in the contract. So therefore, understanding that the first EPC, they didn't sign a contract, didn't give them any money or so on. So we wanted to make sure that they put ante in the game, right? And so therefore, they did contract with the second one. And I think my understanding is they're providing them the mobilization money and all of that, so that to me is confident we'll get the thing going. Financial now, which is going for the balance of the loan, and again, they can't go to the financial until they're pretty much got the air permit or the other issues. See? They do preliminary, but going for the financial closing, they have to have the permits, EIAs basically on its way, and sure that they could get those permits. No? So again, you're looking sometime later this year with the financial closing. Again, we do have a schedule which lays out. They have already filed. From my understanding, they filed the minor source with WAM EPA, because it becomes now a local permitting, not a, although local with assistance from federal, but it's not a federal permit like major sources, no? So that's what's being done now. The EIA, I think if they haven't filed, they're going to file, so that we can get the permitting agencies now to, to approve or provide all their comments together with that. So at least they're moving now on all of this permitting, and they need all of this, that's my understanding, before they get into a financial close.
Yeah.
But I'll get that timeline for you. There is a sequence. Huh?
Well, what I'm getting at is what, when the CCU considers this, what are we going to hold them to besides that $3 million, not bid bond, but the requirements? They don't have any other liability in it, right? We're making changes to the ECA. Doesn't seem like, I know you said you try to negotiate $40 million up front, and I don't know what the mechanism of receiving that would be, or how it would be structured. That's kind of tied into the financial close, right? Once they get the financial close done, then they're on the hook for that $63 million or so that you had mentioned. So is there any other mechanism to get them to have more skin in the game, with these changes to the ECA?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. I can take a look again. No, I can get back to you on Tuesday. That I know I've asked downstairs to contact them, and how much and when are they paying the what you call it, the mobilization fee and everything to Doosan. I'm thinking there's maybe the tens of million, maybe 20 million or so. So that means they made a commitment to move forward, which is again much more further than where we are today, because I think they have my understanding ever since the beginning is that they were there's something that prevents them from providing the 40 million that I asked for in there. So I can check again, get back to you.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when I looked at this slide, I saw that the last three words of the title of the headline is, what if we were to approve these amendments, you still have to go back to US EPA to modify the consent decree. So it made me think about the earlier debate that your governing board is saying, hey, we're not comfortable with just throwing $14 million away for a 3-year timeline. And I have a question for you and maybe Graham. When we did not agree with US EPA and GWA, we took it to Judge Francis, and she agreed with us. Do we have a mechanism through the court, petition the court, that say, hey, we agree on 99% of stuff, but we have this one issue. We're given these timelines that have emerged for no fault of any party. COVID just spanked everybody. And that's very similar to the financial collapse in 2008 that delayed GWA's ability to float bonds to meet the timelines with the consent decree. In fact, you were very helpful in that as well. And we took it to the judge and said, hey, for reasons beyond our control, we can't raise the money for GWA as fast as we would like to, because in 2008, the whole financial market collapsed. GPA now can say, hey, we were going to have this plant built sooner, but we ran into COVID. So it's nobody's fault. But, Your Honor, it's $14 million to us. And we're petitioning you to authorize, the judge, to authorize a change in the consent decree with our argument, right? Are we allowed to, if we cannot reach an agreement, because you're going to take this to EPA, hopefully they'll agree. If they don't, what's your strategy to?
This is something that whether EPA agrees or not, this is something we have to move on.
But you're going to modify the consent decree. Am I understanding you correct?
Yeah. And again, I've thrown the schedule, or not thrown, I've provided the schedule, right? And it appears that they'll be amenable to all of these changes, provided that we can meet the red line
Right.
date. And And again, our
But
solution to make
the
a red
MEC,
line.
the MEC 14 million has nothing to do
No.
with this project.
No,
This
no.
project is a construction project,
Right.
getting permitted,
So
dealing
we
with
have to
delays.
get this done if, because, again, we now have the contractor and everyone on board to get this done. So separate from that, no? And then, because again, the modification, I don't expect it to happen right away, no? It's gonna take a little bit of time. So, so again, but
Well, so
there's two separate decisions.
No, I
One way we
understand
have
that.
to go with this
Yeah.
one, and then we try to work on the conversion.
So can you brief the commission on Tuesday?
Yeah.
What happens if we don't reach an agreement with US EPA on either these amendments to the consent decree or to the concern of your governing board that they want to amend the consent decree to not be forced to spend the $14 million for an 18-month construction delay, right? Are we allowed to take it, if we don't reach an agreement with the US EPA, sometimes that happens, right? You go before the judge and you make your case. We were successful the last time we did not agree with US EPA in the GWA case, convincing the local federal judge to decide in our favor. Is that a tactic that's available to GPA? Can you report on that on Tuesday?
Work with Matt and please answer that question. No?
I mean,
We'll get it to
I've
you.
seen us amend consent decrees. I've seen us even go to court
Yep.
with US EPA in front of a judge. And last time we did that, we won. And to me, it's worth $14 million to try. It may be worth $40 million to try, and then try some of these other tactics. We have a Democratic governor, a Democratic president, we have a Democratic congressman. Let's all collectively reach out and say, may not be a lot to you, but $14 million is a lot of money to Guam ratepayers. And we're still doing the right thing, going in the right direction.
Yeah, and again, that's why I'm saying this is separate from that other one. No?
Correct,
Because it's one part of the consent decree is another part, but no matter which way we go, I mean, this new power plan was really put together based on several. One is the consent decree, low growth, working with renewables, cleaning the environment. So, it's just,
But our original plan was not to spend $14 million on MEC, and we wouldn't have had to had the construction proceeded faster. And one of the major reasons it didn't proceed faster was events beyond anybody's control. So is it worth us making an argument to try to save $14 million for ratepayers and asking EPA for basically an 18-month consideration? This is worth $1 million a month to us.
Commissioner Santos has a question.
because not a record, in the Okudo plan, they're supposed to put 65 megawatt too. But by having the 65 there, we can permit it. The permitting would have lowered the operation of the power plant and limited that, where we don't gain the fuel, as much of the fuel savings that we wanted to. Secondly, being there at Okudu really has some benefit, but there's a greater benefit if we can take it away from there and dispatch it, because it's more efficient, it costs less to operate, and then it's brand new versus the almost 30-year-old machines. So therefore, by doing that, we make useful use of this and able to retire other machines, no? And so it's really offsetting everything.
So is that our way of finally clearing out first 3 and 4?
This will be right next to the not at the Cabot 3 and 4 site, right behind the big storage tank. This will be right next to it. We're going to have to do a decommissioning, which is not only Cabot 3 and 4. We have to plan Tangisan 1 and 2, and plan Cabot 1 and 2 into that. Based on that, we're probably going to have to do some bond financing. Because I doubt it whether anybody going to come in and just clean out the whole plan. I mean, the massy or the selling out or the recycling of all of that. I think the cost will still be more, no, to do that. So we may have to do the payment, but again, by doing the construction and paying for it over a longer period of time, we make it more manageable for the ratepayers. No? So that still has to be done, but it's like, yeah. So, but what I try to do, I know Commissioner, that's been a major concern of yours, and we will come up with that plan and the process, and let's just begin to get the amount and you know, and so that we can come to a decision this year and then. No?
20%.
The 20% is in the bid. We require KEPCO to put down 20% in equity. So if the project is or the estimate is around 600 million, they have to put 620 million of their own cash. So KEPCO is taking that. So therefore, they can start spending that cash. Yeah. So therefore, we're asking them now to to show us that they've given that cash to the contractor. So therefore, they're spending money, and therefore, there's skin in the game. Again, it's 15 units of 2.75, and as I shown in the previous note, the more units, the better for us because it's more reliable. You'll never be out of 40 megawatts in the plant. Maybe 2 or 3 units. That's 6. Secondly, when you're doing renewables, you need 1 unit. You just bring up one at a time and then down. Versus trying to put up a 40 megawatt machine for you're going to back off the Again, similar to the Agreco, these units have, and they're going to be able to do that on a regular basis. And again, the IPP will operate and maintain this. No?
I mean, that's why they put in those generators, was to kind of deal with the fact that while they're the base load, they're going to be dealing with all this new renewables, and they need a way to deal with the variability, so the smaller generators allows them to do that. You're just saying, I want to locate them in Cabras.
And I want to dispatch it.
And you want to be able to dispatch.
Anytime I say, come on the line, come on the line. And the other way
And
is
only what you need.
Yeah, the other way is only if they had a problem, no? But this one we can make use now.
So, JB, just real quick, so the balance of what they have up there, from the 65 to the 41, just remains up there? So only
No.
41 megawatt? Or all
As part, the 65 that they're getting are standby machines. They're up there. They only run for 500 or 300 hours continuously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not meant to run continuously. So we had a fair exchange of 65, of this, or I want 41 of this continuous machine that can run and be permitted to run as much as 5,000 hours per year. So that's the differential, because the machines cost more depending on this type of service. So we cannot equate that, and that's why we ended up with 41.
So they won't have 65 megawatts of the standby
It'll be-
at Ukadu. They'll only be 41, so it's reduced.
No, the 41 will be, the 41 standby will now be at Cabras,
Correct.
which will be dispatched all the time. The only thing they'll have at Ukudu will be the 25 megawatt battery. But anytime something in the system with the machine, we just turn on the Cabras units because they're all intertied.
Mm-hmm.
So again, 15 units. GPA and then the ECA provide a Cabras location, which we identified. Fixed O&M of 2 million annually, variable O&M of 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. We provide the fuel just like anything else. Plant availability from 85% to 64% on ultra low sulfur diesel. Every 4 years, the steam turbine has to come down for about 22 days, just like the Cabras 1 and 2, right? Every 5 years. So during that period of time, they can only run one combustion turbine. That's when we run the 41, we run everything else that we need to for that period of time. In order that. So in the performance standard, they can get 85 for that year. So we're saying, okay, we can adjust that down. But the other thing, when adjusting it down, we don't really lose because we have a plan and we have contracted for renewables. So the differential between the 64 and the 85, the renewables are going to come in and generate anyway. So we're still going to get the maximum, we're still going to be able to maximize or minimize our fuel costs even if we do this. So that's why I was fine, because as we all know, as time goes by, you add more renewables, eventually you're starting to back down the conventional units. The 85, I figure somewhere around 75 to 85 will be the first year operation, but then that will start to back down a little bit.
So there's a net increase in operational costs, the OM costs of 2 million annually?
Yeah, I'll show you the numbers later near the end that compares all the different machines to this one as to what it costs. 2 million annually is really, it's not a fixed fee, it's an O&M fee. And what the O&M is, they have to have labor. They're going to have 20, 30 people to run this plant, similar to Greco, no? So they have to have the people all the time ready, which, for us to dispatch, right? And other maintenance activity. The variable cost only occurs for, when you start running it, right? So that's why I'm saying our upfront or commitment is that 2 million, which we, if we shut down a plant which has people, which has costs like that, you're basically not costing you anymore, You're getting a 41 megawatt yield. Okay.
And is that the part of the plan, though?
Yeah, that's part of the plan. That's
So you're going to show the offset savings?
Yeah, that's part of the waterfall, to bring down, see? And I'll show you, we have the candidates, are all laid out here, who we could shut down. It's just that maybe we'll wait until we get closer to the retirement, see the shape of everybody else and reevaluate our decision then and say, okay, this is down next year. Okay, next. Updated. Everything delayed because right? Before it was 2023, so now your phase 1 is in. We have 25 megawatts of customers, renewables right now. 40 megawatt storage battery is coming in the next month, It's already being online and testing now. 2022, 2023, anticipate we're going to have all the 260 megawatt plus the NG, if we get out of the court, which I believe we'll, don't want to get, not locked, but, it appears to me if we got through the OPA that, it will get through the Superior Court with the filing. And then the new Okudu plan, no later than April 2024. So again, when you do that, and then we'll be coming to you for phase 4. And phase 4, we can accelerate, where it's 2021 now. I think we can get contracts that will start to bring it in about within 2 to 3 years now, because most of these things are happening faster. There's more experience in the industry. We have some ideas how to get this moving, which is something we're going to bring to you over the next, by no later than this summer, So here's the numbers that you can see from there, I think. I don't know, you can see from your book, I'm sorry. But even I have to move closer. So again, here's the annual 1.5% growth from 29, I'm using 2019 as a base number here. And then 2021, of course, 2, 3, 4 are projected numbers. So again, here's our annual net kilowatt hours increase 1.5% per year. I want to be on the conservative side of this thing, so that's why you're seeing a 1.5. So based on this is the type of fuel and the cost per barrel. what I do here is because it's almost a 50-50, it's like a 40-60 use of low sulfur and high sulfur. I try to average it, the number out, just so that we can come in the ballpark of high sulfur, low sulfur, and that's the number, the per barrel. Ultra low sulfur diesel, again, this is 2019 prices. We were at 94. We were around 75 then. This is the production of the plants, Tabas 1 and 2, and PD 8 and 9, and they're going to produce that all the way through until the new power plant comes on the line. No? This is all the other reserves. We're running about 15 to 20% of our energy from the standby, Machechi, Tenjo, everybody else. Again, that will continue on, and as you can see, you'll start going down when the new power plant comes on, comes on the line, and actually goes away to basically just a minimum of 5 million kilowatt hours. These are the renewables coming in, and when they're coming in. These are your, again, your total costs for all of this expenditures, renewables, and this is your kilowatt hour per dollars per kilowatt hour in LIAC, no? And here's your percent of renewables here. This second line here is the amount of barrels of oil that you're going to be avoiding, no? So again, the first part of the working on the consent decree, you're moving forward. Everybody is still producing the same. 2021, this is the our projected price for fuel, about 65 and 85 back up on ultra low sulfur diesel. Again, the same production, no new renewables. You get to 2022, again, what happens here now is, if the ultra low sulfur diesel conversion of PD is approved, this is the year 2022 where half of the year you're going to be on RFO, and the other half you're going to be in diesel, no? That's why you see a breakup here to determine the cost. No new renewables in 2022, because at the end of December 31st of 2022, the 60 megawatt KEPCO is going to come on the line. Then that's going to go into the full year production of 2023, as you will see right here. So again, here's the cost. You notice 14 up to 13, about 13.6 based on this fuel cost, right? Then you get now to 2023. Again, here, now you're discontinued RFO for PD, full ultra low sulfur diesel. And again, in 2023, if you look here, here's $65 a barrel. If you look here, the 0.2% is going to be about $80 a barrel, similar to ultra low sulfur diesel, to comply with that EPA requirement, no? So that's the 1 year that you're going to see. And again, the renewables come on the line, KEPCO, and that will help offset some of the pricing. But you see, the LIAC will be about 14.9 cents, and that's the worst year that you see. I wanted to do this because with all of these things happening, is it going to go up to 18, 19, 20? We need to at least plan and say, it's going to get a little worse, but then what happens in 2024? The second renewable comes on the line in 2023, is put into 2024. The NG is put in here. If you look here, Tabas 1 and 2 went from 644 to 219 because it's generating power for a few months still yet in 2024. But then you take it all the way down. The fuel cost savings comes back in 34 million. Your LIAC goes to about 12 cents. The following year, beginning January 1st, everything is running the way we planned, no? And then you can see we're no longer on RFO, no longer even 2%, it's just the ultra low sulfur diesel, all the renewables, 10.9 cents per kilowatt hour based on $80 a barrel ultra low sulfur diesel. 1 million barrels a year less in oil we're going to burn. And
JB.
then the last thing here is that the next step, and again, sorry, go ahead.
JB, just real quick, the justification or rationale behind the drop in cost from 85 to $80 a barrel, what was the reason for ultra low sulfur? Is it just an assumption or?
Yeah, volume. The new power plant is going to come on.
So you're thinking you're having bulk purchase volume? Okay.
Remember, PD is only just the 40, 80 megawatts, right? Now we're going to have 198. PD actually has been going away already there.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect that there'll be some
Some savings.
cost savings by going we're going to be going out now for almost 2 million barrels a year, 1.7 million barrels a year of ultra low sulfur diesel. So we should be able to get some price break on that one. And again, that's I don't see us paying $90-some a barrel because.
But on the fuel oil barrels reduction for 2024, you actually show it dropping by 829,000 barrels.
Which one?
So on the bottom, fuel oil barrels reduction.
Yeah.
So when you say volume discount, if you're actually consuming less, where's the volume coming from?
Now see here, that's when we're going to be buying already, because in 2024, the power plant comes on the line now about April, May, right? You're going to be consuming a lot. So the impact of the new power plant starts in 2024. That's why the price dropped down to 12 cents. But the full impact of all our efforts, all the thing comes in day one in 2025. Because all the renewables are on, power plant is humming day one, because it's already been running for 8 months.
No, I understand. So maybe I'm just reading this wrong. So the fuel oil barrels reduction at the bottom of column 2024 shows 829,000 barrels reduction.
Right.
So I know we're buying more ULSD. So are you saying that reduction is from the from the LSI, the
Here,
low sulfur?
see this right here is the PD 8 and 9 is producing full-blown 625 million kilowatt hours.
Right.
But then after April of that year,
It drops to 212.
and the new power plant takes up, and the new power plant efficiency is the PD8 and 9 will give you 15 kilowatt hours for 1 gallon of fuel. The new power plant will give you 20 kilowatt hours for 1 gallon of fuel. Okay. So that's why for 3/4 of the year, the fuel reduction it went to 829, and then the following year you get the full 1 year reduction in barrels. That's the big difference in the efficiency of that plant and all of that. So that's why you drop $1 million, and that's where your major savings. If you look here, this line, fuel cost is about 63 million, resulting from the new power plant and the renewables on the line. And that 63 million minus the cost savings will now be used to offset the production costs and other things. So therefore, the other part of the equation is which plants are going to be retired, when, and so on. So to make this happen.
So
Part of the waterfall.
So where is the new 41 megawatts at Cabris production in here?
Right here.
In Cabris 1 and 2?
You see this 92? Right now, when the new power plant comes on the line, the renewables will come on the line. This 92 million is the balance of energy that's going to be produced by somebody else. And then somebody else could be PD8 and 9, the combustion turbines, the new 41 megawatt, Agreco, or they can share that 92. But that's the only part of the pie that needs to be generated by anybody else than the efficient new power plant. And as you add more renewables, that 92 starts to go away. And you have them as a backup. And at the same time, because remember, if you add another 60 megawatt, you're adding another 141 million. So even the base load power plant starts to back off also. Then you're going to save more gallons. No? Now that's why we now have to look and make sure we try and get the best renewable price we can get. Otherwise, it's going to come to a point where the conventional unit is cheaper. If we can buy 12, 13 cents a kilowatt hour renewables without impacting the price increase or LIAC increase. So that's why 115 kV line around the island, no more transmission costs for them. And again, letting some of the things all on the table, we're looking now at government land. Maybe we can work, okay, they're talking about the schools, no? We do a community like solar. This 200 some acres of, government land that's not being used, right? Then again, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm going off on a tangent,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can see it. I'll get back on track here.
Go ahead, John, Commissioner Tapia.
Just one
further
last question. Regarding the 41 megawatt that's going to be down in Cabras, GPA is responsible for the connection fees, or do they exist currently?
Everything is up to the point of contact. So yeah, they have a connection. They're responsible for connecting. But outside the fence is ours. But outside of the fence for us now is just down the road.
But is there an expense that you need a CIP for?
Yeah, it's not very much to take care of that. I think for maybe $500,000 we tie in all the other. The big difference, as I will show you over on the next page. Next page, no? Yep. I'll show you in a minute some of the advantages there. Here's 8 or 9, and I even dropped the number from what I have 15 before to 10, no? Agreco, 5,500, 5.5 million. You've seen these numbers before. These are, the numbers are 2018 costs. I mean, these are actual costs of the here. I call the northern cities. That's Machechi, Jigo, Derrida, 80 megawatts, no? And then I call Temis 7, 40. And then here's your 41. So when you look now, this is the capacity factors that you're going to see for each of the machines in the area. If they generate, remember that 92 I showed you earlier? And then below that, there's a 5 million, because they would have been generated by this group. So that's 97 million that they will generate, no? As a combination or whichever plan you choose, no? So therefore, the non-fuel component for these units are 10, 5.6, 3.5, 3.8, 1.4 Temis, because again, you don't run it, but it's not the best solution at this point. And the new machine is 4.4, because then here's the numbers to operate and maintain variable and everything. The heat rate, this is the kilowatt hours per gallon they generate. And here you can see 15.5 and 8 in MEC. They're more efficient than the others except for, except these are much closer. The new power plant is about 14, this one 13.5, Workers 12. If you look here, $80 a barrel for MEC, 8 and 9. This is the big volume. And $80 a barrel for the Cabras 41. The others are $89 a barrel if we continue to operate the way we do, because there's a delivery charge. The other two, 8 and 9 and the 41 megawatt, are going to have pipelines straight from the tanks. So the delivery charge is about $9 a barrel more, no? Which is what we're paying today for the tractor truck, tanker trucks bringing oil to the plants. So when you look at that, this is the cost to generate 1 kilowatt hour per gallon, 22 cents, 22.19, 24.24. The new power plant is 18. Again, as you can see, the new power plant provides opportunities to retire older and more costlier units versus, again, otherwise we would just have to retire from this group, but now you can retire adding this 41, no? You're going to keep 80. You can get this 2 and take this out. This is 22 cents, right? Here's the age of the machines. That's why it's important. Agrico is only 6 years old now. The new plant is, of course, brand new. The number of units, that's also important. The more number of units, the more reliable the plant, the better it'll work with renewables. Here's the availability. As you can see, those with more units will have higher plant availability, because even if you lost 1 or 2, you never, for the whole year, you're never down for the 20 days of the full 40, whatever megawatt your capacity is. Next. So again, recommendation is really approval of the resolution to authorize to amend the ECA to allow KEPCO to pursue the minor source and commission the local plan no later than April 2024 with best effort of a completion of November 2023. Allow for the relocation of the plant from Okudu to Cabras, 41 megawatts, 2 million fixed fee annually, and a variable of 2.5 cents. Ownership of the plant to be transferred to GPA at the time, the term of the EC agreement, and at no cost. And I believe this provides us all a win-win solution. We'll provide now for the expeditious completion of this power plant, despite all the challenges that are there. 1 year into this, the contractors now have 1 year experience as to the challenges and all of that, so things are much more, the scheduling and everything are much more tight and achievable based on the dates that we provided.
Commissioner Mtaku.
What the decision was to allow for the reduction of the 24 megawatts from 65 to 41? Was that part of just the negotiation, saying if they're going to do that?
Negotiations, and again, they were buying machines as part of their contract, 60 megawatts, but only for maximum of 300 hours continuous running, which is what, about 10 days, and 500 hours per year. And that plan was only their use. They will be the one dispatch it and as they need it and everything. So to me, I wanted continuous machines. I didn't even just want a combustion turbine. I wanted something that will, similar to the Agreco, that will work and fill in the gaps where if renewables were going up, the combined cycle now is at this load. So we just keep adding one at a time to meet the load. You'll match the load. And I wanted one that could run 24/7 for as long as we have the permit, which is, I think, it give you a rolling average of 5,000 hours per year minimum, which is what we expect this machine to be permitted at. So that's the value. So it's just it's a more robust, more type of machine.
And that's for the full term of the until they have the
That's right. Then they transfer it over to us. At that time, like we did, we took over 8 and 9. Again, for your information, we went out for bid for Agreco. There's issues with, lowest bidder not really accounting for everything. Next bidder is kind of high. We drop it, we're running it ourselves right now, and then we'll see whether we're going to go out or not. But we're similarly that you can take over at that point, or you can extend it, let you do anything else. Those are options available too. But at least now you can control this machine, and we're not paying any more in terms of fixed capacity fee. It's a machine that we were buying anyway for the 30. The only thing we're paying is the 2 million for fix, but you're gonna have to. They didn't need the manpower because they were gonna just start this up as necessary, right? But now we need the manpower there for us to dispatch it all the time as we see needed. And then you offset that cost by some of the plan. Right? You retire.
And it helps you with the renewable.
And helps you with the renewables. So, and then you now have now an additional 41 megawatts that's useful for the system, for the next 25 years or more. All the machines, because we had 25 to the 30, now that's 55 years old for the other ones before we don't do anything at all. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I will
Next
bring the
resolution.
waterfall next week, like Tuesday. I'm sorry.
Next resolution.
Oh.
You have
So
one more resolution.
that's basically, the resolution basically says the same thing, Mr. Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
No, one more. This is.
One more.
Yeah, the last one, John.
John, you want to take this?
We'd like to ask the commissions to, our current property insurance expires on November 1st, 2021. This was a 3-year contract, what we did before. So what we want to do is test the market. So we're asking the board to approve to go on a multi-step bid for property insurance from November 1st, 2021 to November 1st, 2024.
Okay. Commissioner Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, don't we have an option? Don't we usually do a 3-1-1 insurance?
Yes, that is correct. Yes,
So
we do have.
we're choosing not to use the option years?
Yes.
And what's our thinking on that? I thought the option year was capped in terms of the amount the premium could go up. Did I misunderstand that? And if so, is the cap so large that you'd rather take the risk of going out for new pricing?
Yeah. Well, the insurance price has been going up, and there is usually a caveat that if you increase the assets, you increase premiums every year. If there's a fluctuation market, you have a right to adjust it. When we did the bid, we originally thought it was fixed, and found out that when they plus a rule, it wasn't fixed. So
You're saying the option year is not fixed?
the option is there. Option is there.
No, the price, I'm sorry, but the premium in
Yeah.
the option year, in the
Yes.
past, we've had option year for year 4 and 5 that we
Yes.
chose to
Yes.
exercise it.
Yes.
In this case, the option year is not fixed anymore?
Yes, the option year's price is not fixed.
So
So-
how much of an increase is the option year?
We don't know. I mean, it's when we go to the when we do an option, we have to go to the market and determine what the price is based on the total insured value. So they
So
will
what was the advantage in the past of having 3-1-1 if we were always going to go to the market in the 4th year anyway? I mean, in fact, our original bid was 3-1-1, right?
Yes, the original bid is 311.
So we thought that was a prudent way to bid it.
Yes.
Knowing that we still have a yes or no in year 4 and 5. But what's our current premium?
Our current premium is $5.3 million for property insurance.
And correct me where my memory is not good. After we had the accident, one of our big fears is the premium is going to go through the roof, right?
Yes.
And we were happy to see that the premium did not go through the roof. And so it just made me it made me feel like the last procurement was good.
Yes.
And now we have an option for the 4th and 5th year, but you're recommending we not exercise that option and go back out for a new bid? And I'm just
Yes.
trying to understand the thinking. Either, right now, you don't know what the new premium will be, whether we exercise the option or put out a new bid. Is that correct? You don't know what the premium will be?
No, I would not know what the premium would be.
If we were to exercise the option, when would you find out? I mean, is it a little bit of chicken and the egg? They won't tell us we have to exercise the option without knowing the price? I mean, that, if that's the case, then I'm with you, then you might as well just bid it, right? But if we know what the option year price, when would you know if we weren't rebidding it, when would you know the option year price? Not
Most
till,
of the times, they usually give us to like within 45 to 60 days before, but every year is a struggle because the market has been a little bit tough past 2 years.
well, is that gonna make it, is that gonna help us with a new bid versus just an option year? Which, I mean, so what's your thinking? I mean, you're saying it's better, if the market is tough, it's better to put out a new bid in a tough market than to explore the option year in a tough market? It's a tough market either way.
Yeah.
What's your, I mean, you have to make a choice, right? So
Yes.
what's your thinking on why rebidding is better than exercising the option? In a tough market either way.
Yeah.
Asking the wrong question, or?
That's a tough question. Yes.
Right, but I mean, your thought process has made a recommendation to go ahead and rebid it. So how did you make that tough decision?
Well, when we did this 3 years ago, because our insurance was much higher, so like $6.7 million. When we did it, the underwriters were on a new tender. They were kind of forced to drop in their pencil, and they significantly did drop it. So we did win the benefit. One of the things we noticed is unless you do a tender, I don't see the insurance underwriters being very more diligent to be price competitive. So this is one of the ways to determine, are they going to be price competitive? Because
You think we'll get a better deal if we bid it versus exercise the option?
I believe it might be a better probability that we might get a better deal. But like in life, we don't know what's going to happen.
And then, did we get any input from our risk advisor in terms of what they thought we should do?
The risk advisors, I mean, we don't have the risk advisor anymore. We want to renew her contract.
Okay.
Yes. Because for her, you feel that risk is too risky for her. A risk advisor.
Why'd you pick that profession then?
That's what I said.
Okay, I guess.
So that was
That's risky
what-
business.
That's her explanation. But before she left, her belief was that during the tender, if you do it more tender, the underwriter will sharpen their pencils much.
Because there's a competitive market.
Yes, it's a competitive.
Versus we're already with a provider. And if you say, just give me my price on the option year, that provider's not competing with anybody, right?
I guess we can ask and see whether there's something will come back.
Can't hurt. I mean, because think of it this way, you've now proposed to not exercise the option. Why don't you ask your current partner, what do you think about that? Give me an incentive to exercise the option.
Is there any reason why we
Right,
shouldn't?
I mean,
And, if it's
we
worth a
think we
while,
can,
then, right,
yeah.
take a look.
And let them decide, because, I mean, let's face it, it's not like there's 9,000 people out there insuring this kind of risk. We almost end up talking to exactly the same people. It's just a different consortium of who's buying it, right? I'm with John B. Why, let's at least ask. We have an option. Can they give us an idea?
Yeah, we could ask that question.
Yes. I mean, I'm not an expert in it, and I defer to Commissioner Santos on all this, but just the little I know about insurance and with our own corporate insurance, we at least get a number. Say, well, what's it looking like?
I think Commissioner, that John, you need to share the history of what happened to us in the past 2 years.
Yes.
What's a dramatic increase
In the premium?
in the premium.
Okay.
And we worked hard with our underwriters and our broker. That as time gets closer to the renewal, the market gets really tight for us. And said, look, this is tough for us because we have our hands tied. The only way to do this is please go out and look, see what's available out there. I don't know another mechanism that we can use to say, look, there's no leverage for us. The market year ago was, what did we get, 20-something?
Yes. So like, yeah, it's about close to 18.8% increase. It's about close to 830,000.
And the year before.
Yes, year before, yes.
Well, no.
Are we at consecutive years?
Oh, yes. So what happened was in 2018, we to 2019, the premium increased by 830,000. But in 2020, this year, they kept the same premium from the original
So
pricing.
that, well, that's good for us. So,
Yeah, but yeah, and that was probably because we tried to revalue it. So the underwriters, we revalued the assets. We removed some assets that shouldn't be insured. So we did. So the total value of insurance went down. But the one thing lucky for us was that we increased the local market and they kept the same premium. That kind of helped us. But the underwriters in New York London side actually did increase their premium. But mix everything together, it came out to be about the same premium as prior year.
so our premium has gone up annually each of the last 2 years. In
I think maybe the question then is what's the average? For the priority first, right? Because they got to figure out what the impact is. And I think what also is not feasible is that we approve the budget in October, then we get slammed in November. As opposed to saying, no, we can go back and say, like 5.3 million, tell us what's going to happen. Come back and, maybe
Yeah.
every other options I think that we can use are we willing to take more risk, meaning,
which is always an option either way, right?
again,
Right, yeah, that's
those are the risks,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
as with John, it's good to passes, start looking at the assets that we're insuring. Start
Co-insuring,
um,
or raise the deductible. Yep,
Yeah,
you kind
and
of,
those are, and you can put that in the supposed to say, hey, come back now. I mean, from the authority side, we should not be the one asking. They should, hey, we know what the market's looking like, really, really tight, we should be doing this, doing that. And that's why when John and I were looking, I said, well, play with the deductible, play with our values, and think, and that's, that's why we have risk management.
right. Can you do that in an option year? Play with your deductible and your, I'm with you, that's, companies do that all the time, right? Kind of, what do you want to co-insure, right?
Right.
Basically.
I guess we can ask that question, but put that out there and see what happens. I think what we're facing is a very, very tough market.
But would it be tough either way, whether we exercise?
Look at it, either you exercise the bid and start looking, or you just gotta say, the question is, they came back to us and said, we want the risk at 5.3 million. No increase is good.
Yeah.
At least when John started, both John and John, a budget,
Yep,
at least
yep.
that part of the equation is not going to change. 5.3, will be the operating side.
Yeah. From your experience, is it something we could go to them and say, we'd like an idea what the option year would cost before we decide to bid it out?
That's certainly an option. I think worth asking. We got the time constraint is really what I think you back off from November 1 and work backwards.
Right.
You need a certain point to get everybody to be noticed. It's not in the best interest of the authority. You're looking for insurance 90 days out. The market's too tight for that. So I think that's why we need ample time to look and decide really what you want to do.
No, I appreciate that piece. That's why I'm wondering from your experience, so why don't we ask them, give us it's a tough market either way. What's the option you're going to cost? Because we're debating whether to bid it out or exercise the option. It's, but sometimes it's better the devil you know. I mean, there's a risk, but my sense of the marketplace for our type of coverage is there's not like 5,000 suppliers. It's a small group, so it's sort of the same group that's been insuring us for all these years anyway. They just sort of pass it around. So small group, whether we exercise the option or put out a new bid, what's happening?
Absolute drop dead date for us. We're based on our
I believe by March, so we could publish by March. Would be
asking the question now gives us
60 days?
2 days or less.
yes. About, yes, 60 days or less.
What do you think? Is it worth asking?
And just,
Can't hurt,
the
right?
question is, the 5.3 million is gonna get split.
Yeah, that's another way to do it. Yeah. Well, what do you-
Use our premium this year, what are we buying?
that's the way to do it. Exactly
Yeah,
the way to do it.
we mean, if we maintain the same,
Well, yeah, but that's the starting point, right? We
Yes.
want same exact coverage at 5.3 million. We default, and we say, okay, then what are our options, right?
yes, okay.
Come back and say, we play for deductible, start looking at our asset values and stuff. I mean, I don't, you know, we obviously have to put on some stuff, because the batteries are worsened. I remember something you said there.
Yes.
Almost 40 million.
Yeah,
Right on top of that, yeah.
So on this premium, what we also did, we included the batteries. That's I think close to $35 million. And we also maintained the same rate with that included. What's gonna happen right now is that we have a Greco that's came into our assets. So I need to do a valuation on that one, how much.
But I like the approach Commissioner Santos has recommended. He said, here's our number. We can't do any more. The world's a tough place for us. We'd like to keep doing business with you. Give us an idea of what it would cover, and then, you know, you can manage, maybe you insure 90% of the battery. I mean, those batteries are built pretty solid, right? Or you change the deductible.
Are they under warranty for how long?
20 years, I believe.
Yeah, it's a PP. Why are we insuring it anyway?
We do have a warranty, and I don't remember exactly. I'll double check because
Well, we own it. Okay, got it. They just own it. They just own it. Yeah.
we'll find out and get back to you before Tuesday.
The bond covenant, all they say is we must provide coverage, right?
Yes.
It didn't say
Right.
to us that the value of it is X amount.
Yes.
Are we required to cover our assets at 50%, 100% of replacement costs?
No, the insurance clause in the bond is very kind of broad. It just says adequate insurance. But they do have like a dollar amount for like workers' comp. Other than that, it's pretty much.
We can,
I mean, we can insure workers' comp, self-insure workers' comp. We're not gonna get $20 million workers' comp.
Yes.
That's, we're not doing our job.
And we have co-insurance anyway.
Yeah.
we can look at the,
John just saying, commissioners told us 5.3 million state package. Is that acceptable or not?
Yes.
If
Well,
it's not, then you come back and say, you know, and ask them, what do you want to offer?
Yeah, what would it get us?
yes. Okay, understood. We could do that.
Okay?
So this one we would actually not do on Tuesday, just leave it on the agenda. Unless you can get some feedback by Tuesday. I mean, we all want it insured, that's not the issue. We're just trying to find what's the best way for the ratepayer. Exercise the option, put out a new bid.
I don't know, what is, I mean, what do we like to do, say, you know, give you a 2-year deal? What's in it for us? Just a 2-year deal, same price, same coverage.
negotiate.
Is that something, given what the market's facing right now, we know our risk, John. We could ask a question.
We only blow up generators every 25
That's a good,
years.
yeah, good.
3 years left.
Again, the market is changed today, right? Yes. So, ask things first, what this 5.3 million buy is right now. So we gave you a, at least when you start your budgeting, you know it's going to be that price.
We have some time. Try to be awesome,
So we'll
John.
come-
See what you can do. Can't hurt.
We'll keep in contact with you on this.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Santos.
Mr.
know
Chairman,
you're not-
Chairman?
it's the pleasure of the
General Manager?
commission.
Yeah,
I
what's
do
your-
want to touch minimum, and I can go through the whole thing, or 2 items, please,
Sure.
which I think is important.
John, take
I
us
mean,
through.
they're all
and we'll-
important, but in terms of, we don't want to know that fuel prices are going up, right? But the first one, the renewables. Storage battery, again, has been been running and being on, not continuously yet, I think, but the daily. Again, we expect we probably have a COD commissioning date in February. We told EPA March, no, but we're next. Here's a case now. This is real frequency. I got near ESS is online and the telephone offline. So in other words, this is the impact now with all the 24 megawatt, 25 megawatt in the system plus 25 megawatt. This is batteries on. Follow the batteries. So as you can see, you drive any, well, we have good machines here, so he hasn't driven them bad, no? Yet, right? But that's the difference, no? Just that one battery in Agania. Next. This is the battery with Agatna off and Talafofo on. See this? Now the battery is doing this. This is a 25 megawatt versus the 16 megawatt battery. The Agatna is carrying the 25 plus the 25, so 50 megawatts is what you were seeing that one. No?
Okay, John,
Next.
John, you have a question for
Go to
Commissioner?
the next slide, JB. My question is related to the intermittent frequency load shedding. Do you have any corresponding data, the avoidance of load shedding?
Yes, it's right here. Okay. See this? This is the frequency. 60 is the baseline, right?
Mm-hmm.
The correct me if I'm wrong, Melinda, is 59.4 or 59.5, somewhere around here. If this line hits 59.5, two or three breakers will open. And if that frequency keeps going down further, the next set of breakers until it reverses so that saves the blackout. No?
So none of
as you
that.
can see here, I'm sorry, one more thing. As you can see here, that's treading on thin lines, see? Coming down. But now here, the battery is controlling. So this is happening, but not the battery is controlling the frequency, so you're getting further and further away from the under frequency. See? So that's the improvement that makes it. This is with the combustion turbine Machechi working to try and control, no, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
This is with the battery now. So the next step, that's it, right? Yeah. The next step now is we'll have both on, and then what do you call it? At Talafofo on. So that means what you're seeing in the system is just from the rest of the parties on the 25 megawatts. So again, this is out of the press, so we're just giving you an idea at this point.
So I can't see where that bottom trove hit on Talafofo, but would that have caused a
Where
the lower two, yeah? Would that have caused load shedding?
this one?
Either of those two?
Yeah, either of those, is go back to the previous one. This is the system. That's only Talafofo.
Oh, it's the same. Okay, all right.
This is the system now. So
Yep,
that's probably that one.
I see.
See? But because you're smoothing it now, you're getting away from this, right?
Yep.
The more. See? So when you did that, now you're still only at 59.9 or and above, right?
Mm-hmm.
You stay in this range, you're fine. But when you drop, and even when you drop, you're fine. So that's why when we drop a generator, because it's 40 megawatts, not the 25 there, right? This thing drops down this way. And it hits right about here is when the setting, you can set it further down, but then you risk overloading the machines. And at this point, we just don't want to risk that. It's good. Unfortunately, we on and off people, right? But at least we're not dealing with blackouts. Next one, John.
John, quick question.
Can you
John,
explain
just a quick
the
question.
Commissioner Sanchez has a question.
Just a quick, when you have a chance, can you, if you want, can you give the commission a summary of how did the condominium hearing go? and provide us at least a copy of our testimony? I
Oh,
believe
yeah.
you told us there was it's a lower, the rate structure for condominiums would see a reduction, and the reduction would not create a adverse impact on all the other rates, what I recall. There is some reduction. It's not as large as condominium owners thought it would be.
Right.
But we hired one of the best guys in the country to do the rate study, and he came up. Can you just refresh our memory on that? What happened?
Good or?
Yes,
Either John.
John.
You're both called John.
Yes.
Part of my strategy.
On the condo rates, we did the all meetings in Agana, Bedodo, and PD. I'm sorry, not PD, Assen. So overall, it does have a reduction for most condominium owners. There are few condominiums, like 2 or 3 in J class, that would be about the same. And some might be a little bit less. And we did mention that when we first did the condo rate. That's why we put an option, say not all condo customers will have benefit. So we did put up so you have the right to elect be in the plan or not be in the plan. One of the questions I asked is that what they wanted is they call it to be similar to residential. So we did so to show them that in J classes, if you do the calculation of a residential rate, it's like if individual units is treated like a residential at the $15, have the same $500, 500 watts lifeline, and then it goes up. So we did calculate for each one of those. We took sample of 10 condominiums in J class. When you do the retail rate or residential rate, 6 of them have to pay a little bit slightly more. So if you do the class do condo rate, most of them will have a savings.
But some will not.
Very few might, very like one may not, but it's almost the same as the retail rate. So there's only very few who would do that, but
And the very few that won't get that is, if you look at their demand and their consumption per unit, is substantial, no?
They're not
We
a typical
looked at
residence.
all the condos, no, or look at one. If you look at residential, correct me if I'm wrong, John, the demand, average the kilowatt demand for a residential, those individual homes out there, somewhere around 2 kilowatt per resident. The condos we're dealing with, the average per unit is almost 6. So in other words, they're drawing 3 times more power than the regular residential. And as you know it, as you draw more power, you have to pay more to do that. So there are some advantages to being where they're at, and the residential rate doesn't. And again, they want residential rate, but what we've given them, I like to say, is the equivalent of a residential rate, because you cannot, to calculate their number, you have to do a model that translate to a similar rate, no? And that's what John has done, no, and the team, and so that's what we're finding out. The demand average usage about 2,000 to 2,800 kilowatt hours per month. As we know, the average usage per month is 1,900 to 1,000 kilowatt hours.
So it may look like a house, but it doesn't consume power like a house, right? Like a
right.
standalone. So,
Part
okay.
of that, yeah.
Yeah, so and when you can, if you don't mind, just circulate out whatever our testimony was at those hearings. I've gotten some feedback, and of course some condominium owners are still not happy. Yeah, but I mean, I think now I recall some of this briefing when the team proposed this new rate. They brought in an excellent rate consultant. When you go to APPA and they say, here's the 2 best in the world, and you walk in there, it's Mark Beauchamp's one of the 2, and he was our consultant, and he's done a good job, and I think you've laid out the issues. I just want to refresh my memory so we can try to deal with our public that is concerned, but at least we've proposed a change. We've had the PUC hearings, now it goes to the PUC. They've heard their feedback. If you don't mind, just send us whatever our testimony was. I just want to have that.
I'd like to just chime in because I went through all three hearings.
Good.
And the problem really is that the people in the condos believe that if they were given the residential rate, they would be saving 40-50%, which is ridiculous. That's not going to
It's like
happen.
8% or something. Really?
Less than that, less than that. So, I mean, there's a perception problem.
Right, okay, so we have an education. So maybe we should do some outreach to the real estate community,
Yeah, I did. I talked to their
But I
new
mean,
chairman.
formal, I mean, call up their real estate group and say, hey, why don't you hear our side? Because right now, they're only hearing one side, and it's a bit self-interested, and we owe it to them, as well as, remember, what we're benefiting them, that we're taking from the other rate classes, so we owe it to the other rate classes to explain to them that this is a very good deal, this is what you asked for, we brought in an expert, this is what the expert said. It's not what you guys are saying. Are you guys experts? I didn't think so. So,
I'll be on KUAM next week.
good, and maybe call the realtors and just ask for a presentation, because they're the ones making the noise, and they're the ones talking to the condo owners, and, they may not watch KUAM, but they meet every month. Think about an outreach, John.
Because, again, I'm doing it because there was a lot of misinformation and
Yeah.
informations that were provided out there on this issue of condo, and the good faith effort that we have made to provide a rate that met the objective of this. We worked real hard to do that, right? And so I just wanted to mention the facts and then let them, take it from there.
And do you expect the PUC, they may deal with it this session, this January?
I think they may deal with it next
Okay,
week.
so let's see what they say, but maybe an outreach to them would be, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Last but not least, if you're ready, is John, you want to show the update on the LEAC? Because next week, I think the PUC will be on. Again, we just wanted to give you the numbers so at least you're aware of what they are.
What page is this, John? Huh?
Then the GM report towards the end.
It's the GM report, the updates towards the end?
Yeah. It's actually the last,
Oh, I see,
the last one.
117?
Yeah. The last
117?
one.
I'm seeing a LEAC type table. Page 117 of our board book, colleagues.
Yes. 117.
So this is the presentation we provided to the PUC yesterday. They asked for the current update. What happened was that compared to last November, the fuel price of R4 has gone up slightly. And one of the significant one that went up was the diesel price. Diesel was close to, I believe, close to 50. Now it's like $71 per barrel. So when we did a projection, if we did a status quo at 8.6 cents, we were projecting about $42 million on the recovery by August,
We can't do
July.
that one.
And if you do full recovery, the rate has increased to 15.7 cents.
Almost
At
double.
50% recovery, it has to be about 12.2.
So the under recovery is worse than we had thought
Yes.
a few months ago, because the price of oil has gone up higher than
Yes.
was projected.
Yeah, when we did the original projection, we were predicting about $30 million, but the Saudi Arabia has been cutting back on their fuel productions.
But John Kim, even at 50% recovery at 11.8 cents a kilowatt hour,
Still
LEAC,
21.
that's pretty low historically for us, right? That's still a pretty low LEAC, right?
For 12 cents?
No,
Yes.
the 11.8, the far right column, right? If we got 50%, if the PUC said, hey, we don't like your idea, CCU, EPA, we want some recovery, and if they went to 50% based on what you gave them, it would go from 8.2 to 11.8.
Oh, no, it's a bit up there. That's a primary 13 kVs. It'll be the green line.
Yes, the green
on
line.
The LEAC factor will be 8.68, where we're at
That
right
we're
now.
currently at 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
08.
Right.
0.68.
Right, thank you, Mr.
We go
Chairman.
to 12.
We'd go to 12, right?
Yeah,
we go to 12,
yes.
At 50%.
12.2.
Yes.
Right, and that would, but the problem of staying still, when we decided to do that in November-ish, October-ish, we thought the under recovery was 20 million, but now it's going to be 42 million because the oil has gone up. And you've
Yes.
seen it at the gas stations, you see it in the market. You know, so what we thought was a $21 million challenge is a $42 million challenge, and that is a challenge. I suspect if you had brought that number to us, we probably wouldn't have said just hold it tight, because we can front some, we can't front all. Because what are we subsidizing out of at the original, 5 million of CIPs and 5 million from the the co-insurance fund?
The plan was, if it was staying at 30, right, it was to 5 million plus 10 million from the
Self-insurance?
self-insurance if approved, no?
Yeah.
That's the 15 plus the 15
But even now,
that we
that's
had.
not even gonna put
But
a
it's
dent in
not
it.
going to cut it. So the 15.7 is 100% recovery, no?
Yes, I understand.
That 15.7 was what was held for a long, almost 18 months or so,
Right.
to recover. And then after that, that's when, it started coming down. And it went
March
down as far as
2020.
Right.
So that's the one that was there
Yeah,
before.
well, and my point is that 50% recovery, even at 12.2 cents, if you look at the historic cost of LEAC, 12.2 is lower than our average historic cost. And so, but, and then at the end of the day, notwithstanding comments from certain senators, when oil goes up, you're going to have to raise the rate to pay for it. There's no other way to do it, or else one day you can't buy oil. And that would be a very stupid position to be in if you didn't deal with it. And that's the reality. And some people, I guess, don't want to face reality.
Okay,
Yeah, tomorrow.
okay. Anything else?
Even though he
John?
doesn't have any
I
himself.
could do the rest next week. Mr.
Okay. Commissioners, our Tuesday night meeting is on the 24th of next week, Tuesday? Okay, 5:30, that's our next meeting. I mean, 26, I'm sorry. Do we have,
Our regularly scheduled meeting already?
the agenda will be coming out shortly. We wait until after the work sessions are over, so we know which ones they want to put on. Yeah, it'll come out in a day or two, right? Yeah. Yeah, by Friday. After tomorrow. Motion to adjourn? Wait a minute, don't just... Okay, seconded by Commissioner Guthertz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We're adjourned. Christ, you just stood up. Gee. I did it. No, you and I did it, but everybody else did.
Based on the new schedule?